Well, hello, I am Candy, and I use my emotional mindscape method to help women in midlife shift from force to power so that they can reduce their anxiety and improve their relationships and elevate their overall quality of life without feeling suppressed. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over the letting go formula with you. If you watched my talk on the 3 steps to letting go, even if it seems impossible, I talk about the importance of letting go. However, you don't really let go. You actually just expand and you make more room for what it is that life has to offer. Regardless of whether you perceive it to be good or bad, you're going to open up. So I have some notes here because technically this is a master class. And even though I don't have PowerPoints for everything, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create some sheets with the formula on it, and you will be able to have a working way of working out the formula on the sheet. So, one of the things that I like for people to know, especially if they intend to work with me, is that I believe that I and the Father are one, and these works I do, so shall ye do also. I feel as though that whenever we talk about being created in God's image, regardless of what you believe, that we have the same power that we read about, and it's not out there, it is in us. And the way that we activate it is as we test it, right? And we see for ourselves, show yourself to be approved, right? So for those of you who may or may not know me, I use metaphysical principles, esoteric science. I'm an astrologer of 25 years. I've been doing astrology since I was 21 and professionally since I was about 25. I learned how to read charts because I was very interested in how those 12 areas of life are manifested in our everyday living. And so I never studied it as a belief system. I tested it over a period of 25 years, and I'm constantly testing it. And it always turns out to be one of the most amazing tools to understanding life, understanding cycles, understanding transitions and the progressions that we go through. And I have found it to be one of my most valuable tools. And for those who may have certain issues with astrology, then I'm probably not going to be your ideal coach. You don't have to believe in astrology in order for it to work. Most of the typologies and personality assessments are basically created from astrology. So, enough of that. If you want to attend any of my astrology classes, just let me know. Okay? So, here we go. I'm going to start off talking about the power of oneness. This is something that I talk about a lot. Everything is connected. As I said before, I and the Father are one. Although we are not immortal, our I amness or our isness is eternally infinite. So being God doesn't mean your body won't give out. Being God means your awareness is in alignment with Source. So you were always one, but the awareness of your oneness awakens the I am in you. So I am God is not taking God's place. So many Christians in particular get so hung up and they feel like that God needs to be defended. And, oh, you shouldn't say you're God. That's the very thing that Jesus was actually crucified for, because he kept trying to tell everybody, you know, I and the Father are one. If you've seen the Father, you've seen me, right? Now, you do not have to be Christianity and the Bible and all of that. Those are very new books. You have very ancient scriptures that kind of repeat some of the same principles in different ways. So I want you to take your head, your mind out of religion, because anytime you hear me talk about God, or anything like that, is totally disconnected from religion. And I'm speaking in principle and in natural law, right? That way you can open up to something bigger, right, than what you have been conditioned to. And some of you may already be already expanded and evolved past that point. But certainly if you're new to this, you're gonna kind of have to, or move on. But it's stepping into the God that is. Therefore you are that which you step into. So never be afraid to claim it. It's not blasphemous. It's the goal of life. It's okay. As man thinketh, so is he. I am that I am. So I want you to think of oneness, or think of a circle. And when you think of a circle and how everything is connected, and you think of everything that may go in that circle, that circle needs to be free enough to constantly expand, right? Without being broken. When you hear people say the circle will never be broken, So many people don't like the idea of proclaiming that they are God, because, as I said before, they think that God needs to be defended of a throne of some kind. But when we talk of being Christ-like, that's what the whole example was all about. Christ is simply code for you. Krishna is simply code for you. Buddha is simply code for you. Muhammad is simply code for you. So any leader or example of a man who embraces the personality of God is an example of what you can do, okay? So, Christ proclaimed his goodness and was killed for it, okay? This doesn't have to be true. So people who think that, oh, the Bible isn't true, we're not talking about whether this is truth or not. We're talking about a concept. People are literally today killed and ridiculed for saying they are God. They are God. So when we don't proclaim our godness, we're actually killing ourselves before someone else can, right? We're actually destroying ourselves before someone else can. We're afraid. We've been taught that that's blasphemous. We've been taught that that's wrong, right? We are in unbelief when we don't proclaim that. We're missing the point of it all. God doesn't want us to defend Godness. God wants us to claim Godness. I am God, therefore I do God things. Many are not okay with that, but that's the purpose of your entire journey. So oneness is the great secret. But even if it's known, one has to experience it for themselves in order to understand it, right? So remember when I talked about the power of expansion in my talk? If you haven't looked at that, go back and look at that. If you think of a big circle and think of that circle as your consciousness, and think of everything that goes in that circle as your experience, right? At some point, that circle will become full. As it becomes full, you can either constrict it because you don't want anything else in there, because maybe you've had some painful experiences, or maybe things have happened to you that you feel are undesirable, and you're like, I'm going to close my circle because I don't want anything else to come in, right? But your consciousness is designed to constantly expand. So as experiences go in, your consciousness expands. The bigger your consciousness gets, the more insignificant the things that you perceive are bad become. Okay? So when you think of expanding, you think of knowledge that you can use as a way of expanding, right? Going out in nature and really seeing how nature makes room for itself. It never caves in and closes itself off. It just opens up and opens up, and it keeps opening up and making room for more and more and more. No matter how much we abuse the planet, it keeps replenishing and keeps doing everything that God created it to do, okay? So when you think about the planet expanding and doing what it is supposed to do, you have to become it. As above, so below. As within, so without. So that is your cue that that's law. All right? Law is simply nature, because nature obeys law, right? So when you see whatever you see nature do, you know that's your cue. That's something that you also have been created to do, because you are part of nature. Now, what normally happens is, as we began to have these experiences, we attach to them, right? So if you imagine that you have this circle, and you imagine that you're attaching these experiences to this circle, okay? And I have a video on YouTube that kind of illustrates all of this. But this is not about that. This is more of a talk about it. This is about the letting go formula. But I really needed to break this down for you to get you in that mindset to use the formula. So as you begin to attach things to the walls of your consciousness has a harder time expanding. It's like, oh my goodness. And every time it tries to expand, there's this excruciating pain, this excruciating sense of loss. It's almost like things are being ripped from you, okay? Because you are attaching things to something that's really designed to just be free and expand and open. You're interfering with the elasticity, okay? All right. There is a part of you, that core of you, that Christ in you, that is extremely powerful, that is the God in you, that can handle anything, regardless of what you think, right? The 3 steps to letting go, even when it seems impossible. Regardless of how impossible this thing seems to be, you can do it, okay? Because you've been created to do it. Normally, if you don't want to do it, you won't do it. But for those of you who truly desire to master your emotions so that you can command them to do what you want them to do, so that you can say, it's time to let go, and they obey. It's time to move on, and they listen. For those of you who truly desire that power, exercise it, test it until it becomes a part of you. All right? So, when you attach yourself in a way that you're not designed to attach yourself, everything seems unbearable, right? But if you think about it, as time goes on and you unconsciously expand and you have bigger experiences, greater experiences, or you may even experience a bigger loss that makes that other loss seem small, that's automatically happening where you are learning non-attachment through being one with Source, also being able to expand, and also being able to pull your attachments away from this consciousness so that it can be free. Free your consciousness, right? So the way that you detach is you begin to move from the head to the heart. The brain makes attachments because the brain creates pathways, okay? So as the brain creates these pathways, what happens is we continue to go down the road of that same thing, right? So addiction breaks consciousness, okay? Remember the circle, and you attaching your brain power to your consciousness, right? The heart, contrary to popular belief, I'm sorry. I think I might have hit my mic. The heart, contrary to popular belief, forms connection without attachment because it doesn't judge, it does not try to figure out problems, it doesn't perceive problems, it just is, right? So addiction breaks consciousness, and consciousness is the state of awareness. So addiction causes us to either be less aware or ignore our awareness. Either way, our awareness is broken, thus a broken consciousness. Addiction happens when our attachment becomes greater than our desire to be free. I want you to hear me. Addiction happens when our attachment becomes greater than our desire to be free. Once our desire to be free is overridden by our desire for that which binds us to our lower nature, we are then a slave to our senses. The only way to truly break an addiction is to raise our desire for freedom to be greater than the addiction. When we think of addiction, we only think of drugs, alcohol, or food. However, addiction actually starts with our inability to discipline our emotional response to outside stimuli. Let's face it, any addiction we have ever had started with a mismanaged emotional response. So I remember my first cruise. I'm going to give you this example. My husband and I took complete advantage of the free tea on the ship. When I got home after a few hours, I had the worst headache. I did. And it took me about 3 days to be able to fully function. I thought I was just tired from the trip, but I was going through a full withdrawal of not having any caffeine. However, I had an emotional response attached to it. So my physical, mental, and chemical mechanics balanced themselves out, and I went on with my life with no need for caffeine, right? I kind of forgot about it because I did not really know what it was, okay? I never had an emotional response that I attached to it. I didn't feel anything about it, right? Okay, so my body adjusted. Remember, forgiveness is natural, it's in nature. Our body recovers, right? We can heal from addictions, whether it be drugs or relationships or food or anything like that. God. And what happens is when we literally don't attach an emotion to it, we break away from it without even realizing it. Okay? So now, fast forward, I've gone through my divorce, and now I'm a single mother of two while in college and switching careers. I find myself tense, frustrated, and exhausted. I'm desperately seeking a solution to the long study nights. As a 30 something with a bunch of 18-year-olds, I had to do something because they were just like little energizer bunnies. And I was just like, I am so tired. So I took this emotionally charged self of mine and I decided that coffee was the solution. So 15 years later, like I'm still like a coffee drinker. But now going back, I have an emotional response, which turned into a feeling, which turned into a concept of myself that is attached to the drug, which is I can't get anything done until I've had my coffee. Because college was so important for me at that time because I felt like my kids' lives depended on it. I needed to get through school so that I could do what I needed to do in order to provide and make this shift from being married with help to being a divorced mother of two. So that emotion created a feeling, and that feeling created this concept of myself that I became familiar with. I became a coffee drinker. I saw myself as a coffee drinker. So I then became attached because I didn't want to deal with myself without the coffee. Now, when I go out of town, I have to know where the nearest Starbucks is. And does the hotel serve coffee or does the hotel have a coffee maker in it? I've now given up my freedom and built my reality around coffee. Okay, so you see how this works? Before, when I didn't have an emotional response to caffeine addiction, I was able to let it go because I hadn't attached a feeling to it. I hadn't attached an experience to it. I hadn't attached self-worth to it. I hadn't attached a concept of myself to it. I didn't even see myself attached to it. I didn't even know what it was. I thought I was just suffering from being tired from the cruise. So therefore, I didn't feed into it, right? You get where I'm going? When we feel like we can't let go of something, it's because we are feeding into the concept of not being able to let go. Okay? But nature is naturally healing itself, replenishing itself, rejuvenating itself so that we can move on in life and not stay stuck in any kind of addiction. Okay? But when we create that pathway in our mind through a powerful emotional response, then there's a road that we travel down now. And we think that that road is us, or it can't be erased, or it's a part of our personality. It must be in my DNA. It must run in my family, right? So now this perspective is all hindsight. I didn't know I was making my world smaller, reducing my freedom and building my tiny little world around coffee at the time that all of this was happening. Why? Because my consciousness was broken. right? My consciousness was broken. Now, coffee is not doing this. It's not the caffeine. It's me attaching myself to what I think the caffeine is doing for me. It's me attaching myself to what I think relationships are doing for me, or what I think drugs are doing for me, or what I think alcohol is doing for me, or what I think food is doing for me, or what I think ideas are doing for me, or what I think religion is doing for me, or culture, or race, or my belief, or life, or death, or loss, or gain. Any of these things can create a pathway in our brains that we identify with that causes us to feel like this is a part of us and there's nothing we can do about it. So, there are three reasons we get stuck in painful paradigms. And one reason is tension. Our need to feel alive, right? To create this tension so that we can feel alive. Have you ever heard anyone say, it's too quiet in here, or, what's going on? Or have you ever heard someone who was having a perfect relationship or a perfect day or a perfect meal and everything is just wonderful, and they say, this is too good to be true. Something is about to happen. We want something to happen. We need something to worry about. We are addicted to worry. We are addicted to problems. We are addicted. They make us feel alive. They give us something to do, right? But what we need to realize is that the smaller our world is, the more focused we are on these problems, and the less focused we are on the fact that we are God and we have the ability to overcome these things, right? The second reason is reason we stay stuck is because we resist healing. Okay? Remember when I said that nature heals naturally? After every natural disaster, you can go back to the space where that natural disaster was, and something will be there. The building may be destroyed, or the store may be gone, or the house may be gone, or a tree may be gone. Something will be there, though. It may be a little tiny flower, or something begins to grow. New life always begins to grow after a major destruction. We are the same way, okay? We replenish ourselves. Our body replenishes itself on a regular basis so that we have the opportunity to continue to use them, right? Our emotions do the same thing. We literally can forgive if we want to. We can let go if we want to. We can if we want to. But there's a part of us that is benefiting from not letting go. We got to benefit from it one time, or two times, or three times, or four times. And those benefits created something in us that said, we want to hang on to this. And then that benefit will, once you become dependent, that benefit turns into a liability. And then you say, oh my God, how did I get here? Okay, so the benefit could be I'm in a relationship and I feel loved, but they are abusive. But I'm going to trade off because I do feel loved, even though they are abusive. And you commit to that. And over a period of time, that abuse outweighs the feeling of feeling love. It no longer becomes a benefit, it becomes a liability. But now you don't really know how to let go because you've been invested yourself into this. you have a self-concept now that is connected to this. You have attached your consciousness, and your consciousness is trying to break out and expand, but you have attached to the walls of your consciousness to the point where you have just damaged the whole elasticity of, and is constricting instead of expanding, right? So what you have to do, you have to unhook yourself, meaning that you have to unhook your self-identity to this relationship, this person, this place, this thing, this idea. You have to unhook your self-concept to this thing, and you have to reattach or reconnect in a healthy way, meaning that you reconnect to the God in you. The God in you is no respecter of person. The God in you is non-judgmental. The God in you actually is nothing yet everything. Okay? The God in you actually knows how to lay down whatever they need to lay down in order to pursue a higher purpose. The God in you has discipline, discipleship, right? The God in you knows how to overlook the faults of others because you got your eye on a prize. So once you connect to the higher self and then come back to this particular situation, you're going to see it with compassion rather than addiction. Okay? You're going to see it with new eyes rather than familiarity. And the new vision that you have of this relationship is going to cause you to either transform it or leave it. Okay? So the third reason why it is we stay stuck is because we're trying to figure out why is it so hard to let go, and we're trying to figure it out, and that's addiction. You get hooked on it. You get hooked. I don't know why I'm doing this, and I can't seem to get out of it, right? So there are 3 pillars to moving through this whole paradigm, this pain paradigm, or not being able to let go paradigm. And we talked about it. It's oneness, expansion, and non-attachment. Okay? And there are 2 cells that you need to shift between during the healing process. That's your forced self and your power self. I need you to hear me. Because in my program, Shifting from Force to Power, this is what it is all about. Because one thing we do, in order to get hooked on something, again, I'm not talking about just drugs, right? You can get hooked on an idea, right? You can get hooked on religion. You can get hooked on racism. You can get hooked on victimization. You can get hooked on life is not fair, right? You can get hooked on entitlement. You can get hooked on this is so hard, right? I'll tell you one of my hooks. One of my hooks was, and I didn't even realize it, when I was in my marriage, and we got married very young, and it was not time. The timing probably should have been a little further out, if at all, right? But we worked through it beautifully. It was almost like instantaneously. As soon as we got our divorce, we were able to co-parent like crazy. It just transformed this whole thing into something very productive, and the kids did marvelous, okay? So everything is good. But at that time, it was a hot mess. And I said, oh, God, if you get me out of this, I will never get married again. And I meant that with every fiber of my being. I've had several opportunities, to marry, and I just was hooked on not doing it, right? I was hooked on it. And once I realized I was hooked on it, that I was very proud of myself by not getting married. Oh, no, I'm a divorced mother of two. I'm going to raise my kids. I'm going to stay focused. I'm going to be in school. I looked at it as a badge of honor to be able to, turn down love and all that kind of stuff. I was like, who has time for that? That's how I ended up where I am, I'm not trying to go back into that. I was very proud of myself. Didn't realize I was really stuck in ego. I wasn't letting go. Sometimes we think moving on means letting go, but I was literally carrying that baggage with me, right? I was moving on. I was graduating. I was getting the job. I was, building my business. I was, had lots of clients, and life was great. Kids were doing great. We're co-parenting. Life is good. I have a boyfriend that I'm not marrying, right? And then it hit me after both my kids graduated. I was like, wow, I'm literally addicted. I'm stuck in not marrying. Once I had I had become dependent on that. It got me through. I was benefiting from it. And next thing I knew, I was hooked to the idea of not doing it, literally. Like I would see people together and in love and everything, and nothing in me was like envious, like, good for you, have fun, And that wasn't who I was. I've always been like, in love with love, and I found myself on the outside looking in, and I didn't feel bad about it until I realized that I had actually become addicted to it, which meant that I was codependent on the idea of not doing this thing, which meant that I was not expanding like I had been teaching. I had made my world so small that if anybody came in and said, let's get married, I'm like, nope, 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 nope. Nope, 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 nope. Closed, right? Doing that, I had closed myself off to love. Go figure. But I'm feeling this love, I thought, right? I love myself. I love my children. I love my family. I love my friends. I love my life. I wasn't feeling depressed. And this is how things can sneak up on you, right? You think you're letting go, but you're not. You actually have a stronghold, a blockage there. Okay, so I discovered there was some things. There was like one or two areas in my life that was blocked. And I couldn't figure out why. I'm like, I'm doing all the right things. I feel great. I'm happy. My life is good. The kids are doing wonderful. And everything was perfect, literally. And I was still like blocked. And once my daughter graduated and I realized that I was not able to move forward in a very loving relationship that I was in, but I didn't understand why, it was because I had locked into, I'm not marrying again. I had blocked it, right? that blockage was blocking other stuff. So I had to let it go. I had to let it go. And this is how it can sneak up on very successful people. That's why I work with successful women in midlife who need to let go, right? You may not even know what's blocking you. There is something that you're not letting go. And I will admit, I'm not fully there. I'm still working on it, right? I was having a conversation with one of my girlfriends, and she was talking about remarrying. And I was really excited for her. Like, I love living vicariously through people's stories. I was so excited for her. But I was thinking, ugh, you know, you're really about to get, this is it. And I had to catch myself and say, oh, wow, you're still kind of closed off to that. It's not a bad thing if you're like, I don't want to get married. I never really did want to get married. But if you were a little girl at one time and all you could do was dream of getting married, and there's a huge emotional response or situation that happens that switches that off, you need to look at that. You want to look at anything that you used to be that a negative or perceived negative emotional response switched it off. Because if you just feel that way, I know some women who never want to have children, right? They're like, oh, I've just never wanted to have children. That's perfectly fine, right? But there are women who have had bad experiences with pregnancy, or maybe they've been raped or something like that, something very traumatic that's attached to their reproductive system. And they wanted to have children real bad, but because of that negative experience, they shut it down. Anytime we shut something down that used to be open, we're shutting down a magical portal to our success. So you may not connect not wanting to have babies after a rape, you know, to blocking your success in money. But if you know that the sacral chakra area is all about producing, creating, and drawing money to you, and then you think how you shut the will of the womb down, then you will go back to what I say. Everything is connected. And you make that connection and you say, oh my God, I've been struggling, trying to make money. And now I know why. Once I studied the sacral chakra and the fact that I had some abuse there, and I shut it down to protect it, and it benefited me. But then I became addicted to the story and to the energy and to the idea of not letting anything go in or out of there. Now I need to let currency flow in and out of there, and it's not doing it. Oh my God, I have some work to do in my sacral chakra. So I had hard work that I needed to do, because anybody that was coming to me to want to marry me, I was like, block, block. So I was in force. I'm going to force that down, and I'm going to get to work on what I need to do. So that was blocking my power. It was blocking my power. All of my degrees, all of my accomplishments, all of my jobs, all of my businesses, everything that I was doing, it was at mediocre level because my heart, it was not open. Despite the fact that I loved my kids, I loved my family, there was an area, a portal that I had shut down that needs to be open so that I can have everything that my heart desires. Do you see how all of this comes together? Why it is so important for you not to get stuck in ego and trying to force things to happen and closing yourself off and this is bad and this is good, up here judging. Move to the heart, open up, expand, don't attach, but yet connect. Know that you are one with the Father and that you can do whatever you desire to do, right? That's not just a saying, that's actually true, okay? So you shift from force to power. Now, let's get into the formula. We're going to start out with the avoided emotion. So, like I was trying to avoid an emotion, I was actually trying to avoid the emotion of love. Go figure. I'm on a smoothie fast and I'm trying to, that's delicious actually. But I was on such a roll talking, I forgot to drink it. But I had an emotion that I was trying to avoid out of trying to avoid hurt, right? And I forgot about it. I pushed it down and I suppressed it. And I identified with being a woman who never wanted to marry again, how powerful I must be. Not, I was scared as hell to do that again. But I pushed it down and became unaware. I became addicted to the idea, and then that addiction broke my consciousness and I was totally asleep to it. This is powerful. I don't know if you're getting it, but I was totally asleep to the fact that I was blocking love, okay? Then that happened due to a crystallized moment. So we have the avoided emotion, we have the crystallized moment. The crystallized moment was my marriage. And there was a crystallized moment in there where I locked it in and I said, this is the reason why I need to avoid this emotion, right? But now that I am awake, I must get in touch with the desired feeling. I don't want to feel that anymore, right? I need to open up to this emotion. I need to open up to this. I need to break this crystallized a moment, break it up, right? Which is just a fear, okay? And I need to reprogram myself with my new desired feeling that I want to feel, right? Which takes me into my new identity, which is truly the I am. The I am is this non attached, expanded, one with God, connected to higher self, not afraid of love, not afraid of anything, good, bad, ugly, indifferent, not judging it, not even giving it a thought. I'm moving in faith, right? And I've shifted from force, my mind, to power, my heart. And I'm in the flow. I'm in the flow. So that is what the concept of letting go. Okay? So here is the actual formula. So the letting go formula includes the 3 pillars to letting go, which is oneness, expansion, and non-attachment. The 2 selves are your forced self, your power self, right? The crystallized moments that keep you stuck, the thoughts you have around your pain, and the feelings you desire to have, and the new identity independent of the pain. That is what the formula includes. Okay? So, with your materials, as you download them, I have the ingredients that I just read you to the letting go formula. And then I have a sentence that you're going to plug that formula into. And as you work the sentences that I have for you, my God, you're going to literally see yourself letting go. Literally, just automatically. It's just going to happen, right? If you want it to. If you want it to. So, download your work, fill in those sentences, right? You're now in my email sequence. What I will be doing with you over the next 7 days is I will be sending you emails based on helping you work through your letting go formula. So I'm not giving it all to you. I want you to absorb what I have told you. Look at the notes that I have left. Listen and watch this video over and over. I'm going to also put the audio file in here. And then work with me along through email and working out your sentence. And then once you have it down pat, you're going to know what that crystallized moment is that has you stuck, and you're going to know about the thoughts around that particular pain and how you can transform them. And you're also going to pinpoint your desired feeling, what you want to feel, and how you're going to get there. Okay? And we're going to have this new identity. So this is something that I feel is so amazing, and it has transformed everyone that has actually come into my course. And I have just fully and thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm sorry, I'm hungry. And I look forward to, after you work this out. And the reason why I decided to pull this formula out and just give it away, I was going to sell it, but I was like, you know what? I want people who have gone through this to come to my course, to my program, after they understand what letting go is about. Because the whole course, you will be letting go and expanding and doing the very things in this. This is really very powerful, because you'll see it over and over and over and over, where you're going to have to let go, you have to integrate, and you're going to have to do all this cool stuff that you do anyway on a subconscious level. You're not really thinking about it, but we're going to bring it into the conscious. We're going to give it names. We're going to give it steps. We're going to give it a sequence so that you will actually be conscious about it and in control and not be on autopilot all the time. So I hope that this was informative. You will be hearing from me as we move forward in your process of letting go. And look, like my story was, I thought I had let go, right? I was completely happy. I thought. And then I realized, no. So you will find something that you know that you need to let go of. As you do that, I want you to think about shifting from force to power. You think you have shifted into your power. You have no idea. So until we meet again, reconstruct the world by reconstructing your mind. I know you can do it. Bye.